Coming up on Signal by Sony, see what happens when the VG10 gets pushed to the limits in the hands of a pro filmmaker.
And we pay tribute to the pioneer of portable music players, the Walkman. Signal by Sony starts right now.
Hey everyone, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Melody. Thanks for joining us. Well, here we are on the verge of a new year, so we thought what better way than to do it in a brand new studio.
Yeah, this is looking really good,
so
huh?
So nice. I love it in here.
I am sleeping here every night because it is better than my apartment. Anyway, we're going to be using this sweet new space to do what we always do, and that's give you an honest look at Sony's latest stuff, whether it's games, gadgets, or movies. But we're not going to do things infomercial style. We're here to answer your questions, talk to experts, test out gear, and sometimes give you information that you will not find anywhere else.
And if you're a filmmaker, you're probably curious to get a pro's opinion on the NEX-VG10.
Yeah.
The VG10 launched in July of this year, and it was the world's first consumer HD camcorder with interchangeable lenses. Now, this is a big deal for people who use DSLRs to record video,
Absolutely.
which is happening. It's just happening so much these days.
Totally.
In fact, some of the TV shows that we watch today are shot on DSLRs and not pro video cameras. But there are some downsides to using a DSLR. For instance, there could be audio issues, and they're not really ergonomically designed for filmmaking. And that's where the VG10 comes in.
So one thing that we should point out is that by most people's standards, this is an expensive camera at $2,000. But for those who are really dedicated to making DSLR quality films, that's actually a bargain. So even though you might not spend that much on a camera, one thing we try to do here on Signal is show you the full spectrum of Sony products. And if you are going to spend big bucks, it's important to know that the gear you're buying does all the things you need it to do. And that's why we put the VG10 in the hands of a professional filmmaker like Ryan Connolly. Now, Ryan's the host of Film Riot, which is a really great weekly web show that gives pro-level tips to wannabe filmmakers. So whether it's making a music video or using CGI in live action. And on top of that, he's written and directed several short films and commercials. And with all the experience under his belt, Ryan can probably school you on any piece of filmmaking equipment. Well, I can't think of a better person to give an honest opinion on any camera, so in this next piece, we go behind the scenes on one of Ryan's infamous Film Riot sketches, which he shot on the VG10. We're going to see exactly what he did with it, get his full impression of the camera's features, and find out whether it enhanced the filmmaking process.
And rolling.
Ryan, what lens are we using right now?
We're currently shooting on the 24 through 70 Zeiss, which is a huge plus because Zeiss glass is amazing. But it's also a zoom lens, and since we're kind of shooting fast right now, I can usually, punch in and out of different focal lengths and, make this go a lot quicker since we don't have a lot of time to shoot today. And action. Color response is good. This seems to be not too oversaturated, not too undersaturated, so there's a lot to work with and pull from, especially in the skin tones. Like, it's really hard to pull skin tones out when color correcting and try to differentiate it from the background. Whereas this, I really like how it captures the skin tones, which it makes for a much easier color correction.
What are we working with now?
This is the 85mm Zeiss, which bottoms out at a 1.4. We're doing a shot where you reminisce about an old love, and to pull as much comedy out of that as possible, I want to really crush the depth of field to make it really, really dramatic. So this 85mm is going to give that for us because it has that long focal length and it has that lower iris setting, so I can really capitalize on the shallow depth of field. Traditionally with regular video cameras, you have a really small sensor, which is why you have that super long depth of field, everything in focus, which is that typical home video look that everybody's trying to get away from.
So Ryan, you've been using the VG10 for a little while now. What have been some of your favorite things about the camera?
Well, I've been using DSLRs primarily lately, so just coming back to some of the typical things of a camcorder that I've missed so much, didn't realize how much I missed, like just having a handle on the top, being able to hold it like a proper camcorder, having audio inside the camcorder, things like that.
Talking about the audio, explain for people who aren't familiar what some of the difficulties are in DSLR audio as opposed to what you're doing with the VG10.
Right. Well, when they made the DSLRs with video, they weren't really having the filmmaker or the videographer really in mind. It seemed almost as just another tacked-on feature that ended up looking really pretty. So the audio is really garbage. It's really not good at all. You need to be able to monitor levels. You need to be able to mix if need be. And if you're on a really important project, that just doesn't fly. The gain control on this camera is extremely impressive. One of the best I've used, I'd say. In the sketch, we went from talking low to screaming, and it never peaked. It's just controlling it perfectly. So I'm not even having to worry about mixing it myself. It's doing it perfectly.
What else in the VG10 really helped us out?
Obviously, you know, we wanted to get like a really good look, a good film look. So, you know, that giant sensor size in a camcorder like this being the first was a huge plus.
So you do a lot of effects heavy work, obviously. How does the VG10 help out with that?
When it comes to cameras like this, you know, they're really interchangeable when it comes to effects, but the one thing that we were doing today was green screening, and depending on your camera, it can make green screening a little bit difficult depending on how it deals with color.
Okay.
But from what I've seen in camera so far, it looks like it's going to key beautifully. It's really pulling the greens out. Its big downside is that it doesn't do 24p, but you can always convert that later in post, so it's not really that much of a hurdle.
So as a filmmaker, what would you say the best situations for the VG10 would be?
I think there's a lot of situations that the VG10 would be good in. Off the top of my head, one of the best would probably be like the documentary type shooting, that run and gun type documentary. I mean, it's a small camera that can be just shoved in a backpack and go. It's a really resilient camera. It doesn't feel like flimsy. And, you know, pretty much anything. There's not many things I wouldn't use it for.
If one of us ever figures out how to time travel, let's make an oath to come back to this very moment and let us know that we did.
Deal. I am from the future!
No way.
Glorious. I've come to honor our oath and let you know we have found the secret of traveling through time.
Stupendous.
Unfortunately, the hole in time only stays open for 15 to 20 seconds, so... I did it!
What?
I figured out time travel.
Why would you assume that it was you and not me?
Because I'm the one that came back.
Because I was the one who sent you. Obviously I was controlling the machine.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Were you an honor roll student? Yeah, I did not think so.
If I was the one who figured it out, I'm going to come back to this very second just to slap you in the face.
Yeah. Well, since you...
I am from the future. Yes.
Well, now's about the time when we share some of the feedback we've been getting from all over the interwebs.
More specifically in this case, from all over the YouTubes. That's plural. So in our episode, we unboxed, in our first episode, we unboxed Sony's PC gaming headset. And here is a YouTube comment from Mr. Shoelace on that one. He says, "Those headphones are amazing! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Please come out for the PS3, and for the glasses thing, that's really helpful. I have glasses and it's really uncomfortable to wear headphones." Yeah, I appreciated that a lot about the design, and about the PS3, a lot of people have been mentioning that, and Sony's definitely heard it.
All right, in that same show, we went in depth on the Alpha NEX-5, and Mota411 says, "I love that camera!" I know, right? The NEX-5 was a big hit with everyone here too.
Yeah.
We expected it to be pretty cool, but we really didn't expect to fall as deeply in love as we did with it. I couldn't stop using the panorama mode. I'm just seeing the world in different ways now. I first thought it was kind of gimmicky when I heard about it.
Yeah.
But we've got some great camera stuff coming up in the next few episodes, so it's not the only awesome camera out there, so keep watching.
And here's another couple of YouTube comments about our Gran Turismo 5 piece. Escape said, "I wanted to see him play the advanced races, not just an open course." We got a couple people who said that. Tony was most interested in the open course mode. He thought it would give him the best feel for how realistically the car handled, and it's also the mode that he uses to actually train his student drivers. But the great thing is that the game is out now, so we can all check out all the other modes. And finally, Jace1340 asks, "Was the jumpsuit necessary?" Jace, jumpsuits are always necessary. Not just when racing, but also when fighting crime in the 70s.
We keep a pair in the back just in case.
Slide down a pole and I'm just automatically in it. All right, moving on now to the new year, which is right around the corner, and it's definitely gonna bring some new things from Sony. In fact, this January, Melody and I will be in Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show.
Yes!
Otherwise known as CES. We're gonna give you guys an exclusive first look at what to expect from Sony in the near future. But taking a look back at 2010, it's been a pretty good year for Sony. We saw the launch of Sony Internet TV, the PlayStation Move, translucent mirror DSLRs, the Alpha NEX cameras, the Bloggy Touch. I mean, lots of great stuff came out of the pipeline. However, we also said goodbye to an iconic Sony product, the one that launched the portable music player as we know it today.
That's right, we're talking about the good old Walkman cassette player. More than 30 years after its introduction, Sony has finally discontinued the cassette Walkman. Now, a lot of people mistakenly thought that this meant the end of the Walkman product line altogether. Fortunately, that's not the case, it's just the cassette player. And so right now we're gonna take a little jaunt down memory lane to see just how far the Walkman has come over the past 3 decades.
That is a long time.
Yeah, it's like a whole person. The Walkman made its debut way back in 1979 as the TPS L2. It was the very first portable music player with a headphone jack, and it was priced at $200. The name Walkman sounds so familiar to us now, but it took Sony a little while to hit on it. The TPS L2 was actually released in the US as the Soundabout, and in the UK it was called the Stowaway. Even the logo has gone through changes over the years. Here's the very first one with little feet on it.
I do remember my first Walkman. It was a compact black Sony number. It didn't have the record feature, didn't spring for that, but it played tapes and that's all I needed, and I totally loved it.
By 1983, Sony stepped up the game with the WM20, which they called the Walkman 2. With it came the ability to actually record onto a Walkman for the first time, but it was also a massive leap ahead in other ways. It was about the same size as a cassette case, making it the smallest cassette recorder of its time. And for the first time ever, Sony introduced color options for the Walkman. In addition to the WM20, the 80s marked the beginning of the super recognizable Sport Walkman, the bright yellow Walkman we all know and love. The Sport Walkman didn't just add an armband, it was also made of impact-resistant ABS plastic, and the controls were protected by rubber seals to make them splash-proof.
I remember a bright yellow Sony Sport Walkman where I closed it together like it was a suitcase, and thank you, Sony, because you got me through some very rough and hard times as a preteen, teen. The back seat of the car, long car trips, alone, listening to every song as if it was speaking to me.
The Sport Walkman was just one of the many different models Sony released in the 80s. By 1986, the word Walkman had entered the Oxford English Dictionary. Now, during all this, CDs were making their way into people's homes and cars, and by the 90s, the CD Walkman and Discman started their rise to popularity.
I got the Discman. I first got my dad. He gave it to me. My dad's like an early adopter of everything. So it was like this big, like, it looked like a brick, but it was a Discman. It was like, it didn't even have round corners.
The Discman went through a lot of evolution in the 90s, not just getting smaller and lighter, but also adding new and improved technology, like G-protection anti-skipping technology, which made listening on the go possible in the same high-activity situations as the cassette Walkman. By 2001, Sony created the first Walkman specifically for the digital age, the MZN1. This little guy supported high-speed transfer of files directly from your computer and 28 hours of playback life. Unfortunately, it would only support the popular MP3 format through conversion to Sony's proprietary A-Track. Poor reception of that device led Sony to rethink their strategy, paving the way for the open format support you see now in their current lineup of Walkman players. And to this day, the Walkman is still going strong, still innovating, and always pushing the boundaries of personal audio.
I've seen some people that have modded old Walkmans to be like cases for iPods, and I've always been a fan of that. Because you still have your music on the go, but you can look not like every other schmuck.
Well, here we are back in the present, and this is what the Walkman looks like today. What we have here is the S series, which is about $100 for an 8 gig model, or for $20 more, you can double the memory at 16 gigs. It's pretty cool. It's got the stereo speakers built right in there, and of course, like most Sony products, it's got a ton of different color options: pink, black, red. This is the purple right now. And there's a ton of audio and video file support, so AVC, MPEG-4, WMV. You can drop files from iTunes, Windows Media Player, even Internet Explorer, or any other app that has non-DRM content. It's got really good battery life, up to 42 hours of music, or up to 6.5 hours of video playback on one charge. And currently it's rated 4 stars on sonystyle.com. Here's a great little user quote. Overall, this was the best purchase I've ever made. I've been looking to buy an iPod to make my workouts more enjoyable, but I didn't like the price points that they're at right now. I began looking towards MP3 players and found this was the exact one I was looking for at just the right price. I love my Walkman.
I really enjoy your dramatic reenactment voice.
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you that. Okay, let's take a look at the Walkman W, which looks much different than the S series. So this one is a smaller sport-oriented model that fits all its storage and technology inside the earpieces. The left and right sides here you can see are magnetically linked, and when they're joined together, a magnetic sensor automatically pauses or stops playback. Super cool, right? You got 2 gigabytes of internal storage, and also what's really cool is it's got a 3-minute quick charge mode, so if you don't have enough time to fully charge it, you can get up to 90 minutes of battery life just by charging it for 3 minutes, which is great because I never remember to plug my gadgets in. Also, in response to customer feedback, the W Series is now water and sweat resistant. The engineering team redesigned it this way after hearing comments the previous model could not withstand sweat and moisture from hard workouts, so that's awesome. So now you know that when you leave comments on Sony's sites, it does pay off because they're listening to you and they do want to make things better.
Well, I think we covered quite a bit here on the Walkman today, but we still want to hear from you. You probably have a ton of stories to share about the Walkman, and we would love to hear about them. So contact us via Twitter at Signal by Sony or email us at signal@revision3.com. Tell us about your first Walkman experience for a chance to get your very own Metal Gear Solid W Series Walkman for free. You can find the official giveaway rules and the deadline at the web address we've got up on the screen right now.
Well, that about does it for this edition of Signal by Sony. We will see you next year at CES. Melody and I are going to give you a first look at Sony's newest products right from the show floor. And by the way, Foursquare users, you will be able to check in right at the Sony booth. And I am calling it right now.
I'm going to get the mayorship.
Right now, you can also check in at any Sony style store, and if you become the mayor, you get a free t-shirt. So that's pretty cool.
You can get that one. And just another reminder to visit sony.com/signal to check out all the links to all the products that we featured on the show, and don't forget to post your comments as well. For now, this is Melody and Anthony signing off. Have a great holiday and a very happy new year.
You know, when you put this on, you actually cannot be seen.
Yeah, well, because there's, you know, without
It's
the
very
camera.
stealthy.
Yeah. Dude, this one is from when I was in 5th grade.
Oh, really?